Hello.
It's Dave. There he is.
Hi, Ed. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I can.
Okay. I somehow started recording and I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to pause.
Shiana and I just so okay. So hello everyone. So it's really glad to have you, on board with us here. I'm Ed Fchak, WX2R, and I'm the Public Information Officer for HamSCI. And like everyone else, I'm a volunteer for this group. And I've been asked to chair this group, which involves you, okay, in terms of really, I think, really, doing something that creates a special interest in terms of science. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I guess, Dave's provided a little bit of background here, in terms of, learning a little bit more about space weather in the ionosphere through monitoring a station on a space weather station called WWV. And then like, from there, using radio to be able to do that. And obviously integrating what we hope is amateur radio, in part in terms of looking at the curriculum. And obviously then from there is to be able to not only teach a bit about space weather, and the ionosphere, but also from the standpoint of looking at HamSCI and the installation of personal space weather stations, is to be able to gather data and conduct experiments, which we hope, from an educational standpoint, I think will really bring a lot of value. So there are basically right now three schools that are involved. We've got two of the three on board here, in terms of looking at Felicia in at Hale County in Alabama, in terms of looking at James and Tejas in the Austin, Texas school system. And if Cindy Beebe comes on board and Randy Powell from the Palm Beach school system, and we'll talk a little bit about their situation, I guess, as time goes on. But I guess that's enough about me in terms of getting started as a volunteer. Why don't we turn it over? Basically, maybe a second or two for Nathaniel, a little bit in terms of an introduction about yourself, Dave, a little bit of background there, and then we'll turn it over to the three of you for a couple of minutes in terms of background. So, Nathaniel, over to you.
Well, thanks, Ed. I really appreciate it. I don't think I need to give too much about me because I have talked to each and every one of you individually.
That makes it easier.
What might be, I think I don't want to make this super formal. I've been thinking a lot about why this is forming and what the purpose of it is. And I think the first thing what I want to say is that, when we originally wrote the personal space weather station grant, we did not really have it in scope per
Correct. Yeah.
se to support K-12 curricular integration and that sort of those educational aspects into the grant proposal. What we did do was in the grant proposal, we said we would work with the amateur radio community and they would help us develop things. And and collect data and create instruments and meet our science objectives. And I'm really glad that each of you have shown an interest in this, and we want to get you that hardware and be part of this project. But I know, so I actually do have an education degree. So I have an undergraduate degree in music education. I come from a family of teachers, and I have a really great respect for what goes on in the classroom and the special things that teachers need. And so basically I don't want to just send you a piece of hardware and then have you feel like I don't know what to do with this. I don't have any support. So coming up with this K-12 group, I wanted to basically have a place where you could come together and feel like you could get extra support and say, okay, how do I can you help me develop some lesson plans with this, or this is how I think I'm going to use it with my class. I really want this group right now to really be tailored to just helping you guys get off the ground. In the future, I think Felicia knows this, and Ed and maybe Dave, I'm not sure if James and Tejas know this. We did write a rather significant NASA grant proposal back in March to do something
Recording in progress.
called the NASA Science Activation Program. And in that program, we did say we were going to team up with the ARRL and actually work with their Teachers Institute to develop formal, curricula. And I'm happy to say that that proposal was selected. So I learned that this week, yeah, that the proposal is selected. Now, what that means, I don't exactly know what it means because when they had us write that proposal, they said, "Could you please give us a maximum budget and a minimum viable budget?" And in the maximum budget, we asked for like $6 million in the whole world. And if that gets funded, it would go be split among six institutions and everyone would have their role and it'd be fairly well supported. But they haven't told us if we're going to get $6 million or if we're going to get $250,000 split among six institutions. So we don't really know the scope of that.
Yep.
But um, assuming that does, if that does come to pass, this group will probably turn into a more formal sort of, there might be more formal interactions with the ARRL and more formal curriculum developed. But for the moment, this is really just about helping you get this stuff going in whatever schools you are for your
Yeah,
particular.
and as I think I've mentioned to everyone in talking with you, is that we looked at this as a pilot, pending in terms of looking at what would happen with the NASA grant. And obviously, events moved a little bit more quickly, I think, in terms of, but perfect timing to this meeting, okay, for us here today. So that's where we are. So I see Christine is also on the call and Cindy Beebe is also on the call. So let me just quickly, maybe Christina and then Dave, just like a quick 30-second introduction about your fit with HamSCI, and then let me turn it over, to our educators in terms of a little bit of background about them. So, Christina, over to you, I guess, and then Dave.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Sure. Mhm.
Wonderful. All right. Hi, Christina Collins, researcher at the Space Science Institute. Apologies for the lack of camera. I don't have a webcam hooked up on this computer. I'm the chief operations scientist for HamSCI, so under the current DAISY 2 grant. So I'm working on kind of helping Nathaniel with the strategic planning and trying to fit all of the pieces together. So we work on things like documentation and deployment and figuring out how to get HamSCI's data into science results and papers and things like that. So really looking forward to working on the education side of things and getting the flywheel turning here.
Yeah. And if the vernacular sounds a little complex at this point, hopefully we'll make it easier, as time goes on and we get more involved in the project. So thanks, Christina. Dave, over to you.
Hi guys, Dave Swartz here in Colorado. I'm a former educator and taught high school science for almost 30 years in Fort Collins, which is where the WWV radio station is. And it's interesting. I got licensed when I was a kid, but didn't really keep my license. My life changed quite a bit, and my career direction changed and ended up getting into education. But I always wanted to get back into it, and I did. The last year I was teaching, and so it's probably good that way. My career was focused on environmental ed and a whole lot of physical science, but a lot of earth science stuff. So the radio stuff, when I got back into it, discovered that this great experiment was about to take place with what Nathaniel was working on with the HamSCI group. And I got involved in about 2019 when it was the 100th anniversary of WWV being a radio station. And it was really the beginning of a lot of the different science stuff that we're doing with HamSCI with regard to making these measurements and everything. So it's really, really quite a neat thing. I met Christina in 2019, right when she was working on her doctorate, and this project helped her get her doctorate, which we're real proud of too. So it was very cool. So back to net.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. So I think a little bit, I think as part of the introduction, I did a little bit about me. I sort of forgotten that actually I do have a license to teach in New Jersey, which goes back a long
Oh,
time now. And never actually used it. Okay. So K through 12 social science back then. So that really dates me. But I came out of the media business. Okay, I'm not a scientist. I basically worked in newspapers and television, in public relations and then marketing for a long time. And I joined HamSCI, I guess, around the solar eclipse QSO party in terms of helping to recruit amateurs. In terms of being able to participate in the science that we did around the solar eclipse QSO party, and obviously I'm a committed volunteer because this is a great assignment and a great organization. So, with that said, let me turn it over to you. Maybe sort of work east to west. Okay, maybe Cindy, you first, and then Felicia, and then we'll turn it over to Tejas and James. Just a little bit about you and sort of a little bit about where you are. So. Cindy, over to you.
Hi,
Thanks
I
for
am,
joining us.
can you hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, I am a newly retired, 3 years Palm Beach County public science teacher. I am in the West Palm Beach Amateur Radio Group. I got a radio after the 2004 hurricanes. There was a science workshop, and Karen Anderson put it on, and I got my license and joined the club. I've been working with the club in their ed outreach with middle schools, a couple of middle school levels, doing some intro to radio and using on the air, and that's been very successful for our club. I'm interested in making a connection with our science rep who does curriculum for Palm Beach County, and I looked at their benchmarks. There are a couple of benchmarks that correlate, and if you're not familiar with public schools, especially in Florida, it's very DeSantis best practices driven. Everything has to match. There are two that match very well with this project. They are a ninth grade level, but I think you can move it up or down. So I've just been looking at that today, and it looks very, hopeful as far as that matching up. That would be the school's main concern. Also, I would need to know what the school would need as far as what they would need to install, any permits. Uh, I assume no cost to them, but just what they would have to do to incorporate this into their curriculum. And I would talk this month with the director to see where we could incorporate it. She's been contacted before. Mm-hmm. Palm Beach County is going through a crisis, in case you don't know it, because of the immigration status in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. There's a vast reduction in students, less money for schools. So they're kind of in a crisis mode. But I do believe I could go to her, and she has some specific schools in mind where this could be put into place.
That'd be great.
So the sooner I make that connection, the better.
So we need to get back to you with some information that you need in terms of just really resources, that may be required, that type of thing.
Right.
You mentioned also, just as background for everybody, is that the club that Cindy is the West Palm Beach Amateur Radio Group, okay, which I'm also a member, okay, and we have another member of our team, Randy Powell, KO4WTM, who's not on the call today. So that sort of fills out that piece. So I guess, I'm looking at Nathaniel here, but we'll backfill in terms of that information for that meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Cindy, do you have a call sign?
KN4JKI.
Hey,
I'm sorry, I didn't put it on there.
KN4KJI.
JKI.
I had a phone call right when I should be on here. So let me see if
those things happen.
JKI.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So thanks. Felicia, let's move it over to you. So.
Good evening. I'm Felicia Briggins. I work in the Hale County school system, which is in Alabama. We're about 45 minutes south of Tuscaloosa, very rural area. I teach Project Lead the Way engineering and robotics and anything STEM related. My goal is basically exposure for my students to be able to expose them to different things, how to use data, how to read data. I mean, just anything that can help them and give them better skills for the world that we're moving into. We have a solar farm that's being built probably 5 minutes from my house or where I live in New Bern. So just any skills that can help them be more adaptable to the technological world that we're moving into.
Great. So any questions here?
I got my license in October at the Teacher Institute.
Yes.
This past October 2025. So I'm new to amateur radio, but as soon as I got it, I got antenna, bought antenna, got a radio. So I've been operating through our repeater. I just this summer got my general. And I also tried to turn around and study within a week for my extra. I didn't get it, but when I go to HamFest, I'll test for my extra. And I have an end-fed half wave at home. I've calculated the triangulation to how far I need to move it for inverted V. So I'm measuring and putting flags out to get my father to put up the hole that I need to support the center. So that's where I am in radio.
And the last time I spoke to you, you were at the Teachers Institute and you were winding an antenna. I can't talk to you now, right?
You have an HF radio then, is that right, Felicia?
I have a 891,
Yeah,
a Yaesu
that's
891. I think it's an
very
891,
good.
yeah, something like it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, the
That's
FT
great.
891. That's it. So when you
That's
play
at
around with
home.
that and you dial
That's at
around,
home. Here at school, I have a 500D.
Yeah.
The 891 is at home, but the here at school, I have a 500.
what manufacturer is that? Do you know?
It's a Yaesu.
But
It's Yaesu. It's
that's a VHF
maybe
UHF one.
500D,
The five, yeah, the
maybe
500D
550.
is that would be a VHF UHF one.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
not HF, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
But the 891 at home is the HF, and the
Yeah,
500D is the VHF UHF with Yaesu Fusion, I
yeah,
think, maybe.
yeah.
If you get that 891 and you put the antenna up to it, dial around and you'll pick up that WWV station 10, 15, 20 on the dial, like
No
exactly
problem.
on. And that's your
Gotcha.
that's what we're going to listen to with the other radios that we're going to send you guys.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Felicia. Let's go further west, I guess. James and then Tejas. So over to you.
Mr. Tages, feel free to go first.
All right, sure. Thanks, James. Yeah, my name is Status. I'm a rising sophomore at the Liberal Arts and Science Academy in Austin, Texas. For short, LASA. Our school has had an amateur radio presence for, I think, over 20 years or something, for a very long time. Um, and yeah, I'm a relatively new amateur radio operator. I first got involved around a year ago, but I've had a interest in like physics and electronics long before that. So when I first was introduced to amateur radio, I immediately picked it up. And yeah, I kind of started to get more involved with HamSCI only recently, about a couple of months ago, with this project, and then also some HF channel sounding software that I'm working on. And yeah, and I guess since it's relevant, I also work with a nonprofit called the North South Foundation. I develop and teach a Earth and Space Science curriculum to middle schoolers, so I can also assist with that for a bit.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you.
That's really cool.
So I'll go next. Well, howdy y'all. I'm James Irvin. I am a graduate of the Lhasa High School, or of Lhasa High School, and I am the former president of the Lhasa High School Amateur Radio Club. I got involved in ham radio back in 2022, and then was given or told to run the club, and so I did that for my junior and senior year of high school, which was a lot of fun. Right now, I'm pursuing a degree in electrical engineering at Texas A&M University, where I'm also the president of the Texas A&M University Amateur Radio Club. Um, I've been involved with HamSCI kind of off and on since the 2024 solar eclipse. David Kasdan and Nathaniel reached out.
I'm sorry, my wife was saying hi.
Oh, okay, my bad.
You become family here very quickly.
Keep going, James.
So we got Lhasa involved. We got Lhasa involved in deploying a receiving station to listen to WWV or it wasn't WWV, it was CHU.
Yeah.
During the solar eclipse. So I was the one in charge of deploying the 80 meter, 20 meter, and 40 meter stations around Austin. It was good fun and I enjoyed it. And Christina, who I also work with, put the link to the article here in the chat. As of right now, my current involvement in HamSCI is kind of helping out Tejas in whatever way he needs back at Lhasa. I serve more as an Elmer and an advisor to the Lhasa Radio Club, so I'm just kind of here to, make sure that if people need to get in contact with them, they can, get them equipment donations, fun stuff like that. As for my other involvement in HamSCI, I am starting up a sort of an adaptation of the personal space weather station that I had a meeting with Nathaniel recently, but for VHF UHF. So adapting the RX-888 receiver and some transverters to listen to a bunch of VHF, UHF microwave bands and, integrate it with Weakmon and all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Thank you. So let me vary a little bit from the script. Nathaniel, let me toss it back to you. And so we've got everybody, I guess, on a common page to get started, because obviously there's sort of different levels of contact with us and with PSWS. Is to talk a little bit about the personal space weather station, in term and also in terms of, to go back to Cindy's question, of sort of how things fit, inside of what we're visualizing in terms of a public school. So can you pick that up?
Yeah, sure. So, the Personal Space Weather Station project is a multi-instrument receive site, basically, that we are listening to radio signals from around the world and we're trying to relate those to space weather. We're listening to them on many different frequencies. We're also receiving ground magnetic field variations. We're processing in all sorts of different ways, and we're trying to use that for space science. Now, really for this project, probably the most concrete way to say how do I use this in a classroom is we would give you a receiver, and I have some photos that I have taken, which are on this screen over here. So these are funded by my NSF grant. So this is the HF receiver for the Personal Space Weather Station. It has a software-defined radio receiver here. It has a filter here. It has a time sync injector here, and it has a GPS disciplined oscillator there. And you can plug that into a computer that looks like this, and that computer can do all sorts of reception and processing on it. You might say, well, what does it look like when you interact with this? There's many different forms. One way is through the web SDR. So you can go to a website like this. Let's see if this works. There it goes. So what you're actually looking at right now is the real-time live output of this software-defined radio receiver, that system that we have installed at the Jenny Jump Observatory in New Jersey. And this is the HF radio spectrum going from 0 all the way up to 30 and then actually up to 60 megahertz. And you can actually tune this in like a regular radio. So let's see, I can share computer sound. I'm gonna turn the volume down at first. Let's say we want to listen to like WWV on 10 megahertz. We can push that in and I can hit start audio. So that's what WWV sounds like. You can also listen to shortwave broadcast stations.
Revelation on that script that we never looked at it that way before. And then another one, and then it's coming straight from the front. Supplements, they should be taken along. Drop me an email. I've been answering questions on systemic enzymes.
So students or people using this system can connect to it just through a web interface and can interact with it this way. While it's doing this, it's also decoding some of these signals. On some of the ham radio bands, there are digital signals that you can listen to. I think around, like, if we zoom into 14074, let's zoom into there.
FT8.
Yeah, FT8. And let's play what this sounds like. Start audio. I'm going to change this to, I'm going to change the mode on here. So you can hear all of those ghostly signals. And that may not sound like a whole lot, or it may sound very weird, but you can decode those, and the system automatically decodes them, and it can plot these things onto a map that looks like this. Give that a minute to load up. and it will actually show you. There you go. So these are all radio signals that the system that you were just listening to has received in real time in the last 15 minutes from all around the world. So it's decoded all of those funny noises, and you can actually see where they're located. And then there's all sorts of things you can do with this data once you have it. One of the things I enjoy doing is I like to plot it. Let's see if I go over here. Um, Go to the Gannon storm, maybe. Here we go. So I will collect data from these systems all over the world, and I might make plots that look like this. And this is not just from a single station. These are from stations throughout the entire network. And here you can see it's split up by band. This is a higher part of the HF band. This is a lower part. And this is a big geomagnetic storm that took place right here. And you can see how it's affecting the whole bands. And there's like a bajillion ways to slice and dice this to study space weather and its impacts on Earth. And Christina and I think Ed, they were talking to you earlier about, or Dave was talking about another way you can do it by listening to like WWV. So there's a
Right.
lot of ways to interact with this data.
Yeah.
I think for getting you guys started, I think the first thing would be to do is just to get hardware in your hands. So here at the University of Scranton, this has been a work in process or in progress, but we now have 20 of these systems built. And I would intend to send each of you one of these systems. And we're still finishing configuring and setting them up. But this photo was taken yesterday. We have 5 of them all connected up to our system. And we're having people, work on, we're coming up with the new version of the data collection software and everything to make it more robust.
Yeah.
But we do have these systems ready to go. We also have ground magnetometer systems that attach to them. So I think what we'd want to do is get these in your hands at some point relatively soon. Let you kind of just get your feet wet with learning your way around these
Yep.
different capabilities, and then you have some time to kind of tinker with it, and then we can talk about how you actually use it in your classroom.
Yeah. And obviously, we'll be providing technical support to help you get it on the air, that type of
Right.
thing. So, yeah, just so that there's no fear, in terms of what we're looking to try to do here. So, perfect. Thank you, Nathaniel. So, it's great.
Some of
Let's,
the
yeah, David, why don't we turn it over to you in terms of getting a discussion on curriculum? So,
Well, I wanted to visit a little bit about that when we were talking about looking at the curriculum. When I look at the notes that Nathaniel sent out and talked about, we are going to try to establish some ground rules to be determined on how we focus on curriculum, and then host site logistics and implementation. And I think that by sending the equipment out to you guys, the host site and implementation is going to be probably the biggest and hardest thing to tackle, and
yeah,
that would lead to being able to do curriculum. But for example, Nathaniel, you're going to send them a ground magnetometer, but I doubt very much that these schools will have the ability to properly install a ground magnetometer, and the environment of a school is not really going to be very
Right.
good for a ground
So,
magnetometer. I'll
and,
just
and
say that.
we understand that. So what we'd probably do, I think we could just send you just the HF receiver, so we don't have to
Right.
send the ground
correct, right.
magnetometer too. And if you just do just the HF receiver, that's probably the easiest thing to install
Yep.
at the school, and the thing that you have to worry the least about weird environmental.
Yeah, and also, parenthetically, it also takes us back to Cindy's question particularly for Felicia, obviously in terms of your system and Austin is going to be different than Palm Beaches is. But any experience that you've had in terms of installation, any issues that you've had, what was, Cindy, your question was around like, siting, that type of thing. Any questions that, like Florida, Board of Education or Palm Beach Board of Education might have, that type of thing. So, I mean, we're going to certainly share that type of experience, particularly in terms of going into Palm Beach County, in terms of finalizing a school. So we're, the equipment's going to arrive ahead of a school selection, that type of thing.
Okay.
So,
I
Well,
do I do have a question. What would
yes, go
be the
ahead.
requirements for the school to install the HF receiver?
I
Okay, so
would, I
what
would
does the school have to do or have to have in order to do that?
The biggest hurdle I think that you're going to run into, and I've tried to install radios in several schools, public schools that I worked at before and had the inside loop on, but all of these radio systems need to connect to the internet. And so you need to be sure that we can take the equipment that we have, and these are computers, this little AMD that you saw sitting there on top of all of that, that needs to be on the internet so we can communicate with it. And the scientists from HamSCI need to be able to go from the outside into a school district's network and be able to get to that specific machine and run that machine. So there would be people coming from the outside to access that machine, and then the data would then be downloaded from that. And I can tell you, with my experience in my school district, they said no, like that was it, because this was outside equipment and it's not something they're worried about security for a very good reason. And so, what would be really good to find out is, does the school district have a public network that
Right,
we could put this equipment on? Because otherwise, if we can't get onto the internet, we have to also talk about potentially looking at buying our own wireless service that
yep,
you might put on top of the building of the school and bring that wireless service down, and it would not have anything to do with the school district's
right,
computer network.
right, right,
So that's a really big hurdle. And then the second one is the physical plant of your school. You need to be able to get an antenna, coaxial cable running up and outside to some point where we're going to mount an antenna. And we also need to know, are we going to mount a vertical antenna or are we going to mount a long wire antenna? Because that makes a very big difference too.
mhm,
A long wire antenna requires almost a half a football field length to be able
Oh,
to set it up.
mhm.
And so if you have a very big school with a big, long, tall building on, that has, sometimes schools are stretched out.
Yep,
If you can talk the school into helping you get a wire stretched above the school, then that would do it too. But I think the physically getting these things in there is going to be the challenge. And if we could overcome that physical, that would be good. Now, what Nathaniel's got also with these web SDRs, we could get started without a radio in the school. In other words, we could have you guys start exploring the HF spectrum, start learning to use the software. That would be things that could happen before the physical equipment got installed.
right,
And that would be something that we could probably dedicate a couple machines to be specific for the schools to be able to access. And that would also require you to be able to go out over the internet, interact with the computer, and then that output of the computer coming back to your school. And so,
Some I, I thought just occurred to me too that, another way around the school network issue is, let's say you have a local amateur or some other organization that is willing to host a receiver nearby. I don't know, a museum or a public observatory.
yep,
If you have you can re you if because these things are all internet connected, you could have one installed at like a public observatory or museum nearby your school,
yep,
and you could have this students visit it for a day and make a day out of that, but then you can access all of its resources remotely.
right,
And that actually, and or you can just host it if you feel comfortable with having the network at your house, you could host it at
right,
your
right,
house,
right,
and then the students, we can help you set up the network so the students can go out to the website
right,
and it doesn't involve putting anything on your school's
right.
network.
Yeah,
So
takes
you
away
just
the argument from
you,
the
you
school.
just
Right,
you just have to find someone who is in your kind of local area that is willing to take some of
yeah,
that risk in terms of network access.
Yep. Yep.
Now, LASA, you guys might have already solved all these problems as far as getting a wire up to the roof of of a building. You've already done that, right?
Yeah, we already have a pretty good HF setup at our school. I think the biggest concern we have is just um sorry. I think on the official PSWS website, there was like a recommended antenna, like a DXC, like a DX Engineering
The
RC.
vertical one?
I don't, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be able to use that in particular because that requires like a ground
Right.
mounted system, and our school is pretty tall and has a lot of like enclosures, so there's not a lot of space to put that. But if we can use like a custom made antenna, like a loop on the ground kind of thing, then I think that can
Yeah.
definitely work. Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely options for antennas. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And that might vary between all the schools. I mean, that.
Yeah, there's not going to be a
Anyway,
consistency here. But that's also
yeah.
the challenge with the pilot that we were looking at to see what do we need to learn that we can help leverage going downstream. So,
But the installation, I think, is the biggest hurdle to get over, honestly. Even if you went to a local, you another facility, a museum or something like that, they have to deal with the same problems
yeah,
there.
Cindy, I'm thinking
know,
Cox, but we'll
yeah.
see what happens, right? So,
But
like
but
science
putting it
Yeah.
at a home is probably the easiest thing to do.
Yep.
But then again, it's at a home and it's not. We want the kids to actually get their hands
the
on the
hands on.
equipment too, if we can. So that would
Yeah.
be the best thing would be to install at a school. But
Mm.
it would be good to if there's every school district that you're talking about, they're all big enough to have their own IT networking folks, and so those are the ones you have to go talk to for the internet stuff first. Just get started there, in my opinion. So
Okay. Also, the question I had was in Florida, we have hurricanes. So whatever you put up has to be rapidly able to be taken down if you put anything on top of a building. So I don't know if anybody else,
or strong
storms.
guy wires.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and Cindy makes a good point. I mean, from experience, because obviously I split time between Florida and New Jersey, is that yeah, I mean the installations for me are temporary. The
Right.
question is really is how simple, is temporary, and I think we could work that out, Cindy. So I just from experience, and I guess from experience in the club to be able to make something work, okay, with the school system. So. Yeah, Cox Science Center comes to mind though, as going back to Nathaniel's point as a possibility. So
Mhm.
anyway. So I'm watching my time here. We've got I promised an hour, about 20 minutes. So, Dave, do we want to talk a little bit about curriculum here, at least as a starting point? Because obviously we've got
Well,
everybody here, and this is, I guess, a committee of the whole in terms of looking at curriculum. So,
Well, developing curriculum, I guess, Ed and I have talked about this a little bit on our own. And the question was originally, I was thinking that we didn't necessarily have to fit a specific curriculum. In other words, this might have been an after school type of
yeah,
application. But I'm hearing from both Felicia and from Cindy that you are looking at specifically where would it fit into a curriculum, like a ninth grade curriculum. Cindy, I was curious when you mentioned benchmarks. If you could, you've got my email address in an email or on all these emails we've done so far. Feel free to. I'd be curious to look at the specific benchmarks you were talking about, and
Okay.
as
Can I ask where are the emails? Did you send them out
I
previously?
sent them out. I guess I'll resend them out after the
Okay.
meeting. I did send a roster with. Well, I talk about being an advertising guy. I did a lot of
Right.
frequency. You got a lot of emails from me.
this one came
But
at ten
the
thirty
first one
five
I
this
sent had the
morning.
roster at the top. Okay,
Yeah.
so blame
No,
blame me for over communicating. So
there is
anyway,
there is a complete email that came out at 10:35 this morning. So if you're
yeah, and
10:35.
that's as well too. That's a
you're
follow.
excused for
Okay.
not seeing that yet. So,
I
um,
just got back from a long trip, so I'm just
I
catching up on
Well,
things.
we're all
But
volunteers here, believe
there,
me. So
yeah, there's some benchmarks that fit this perfectly that has to do with justification of continuing technology and space exploration and development and data collection
yeah,
to justify that. So, I
yeah,
mean, that is there, very solidly there.
yeah,
So there won't be any trouble with that. It's just what grade level do you want it to be and where to start. And we can look at ARRL's lessons and things and
yep,
pull from that.
yep,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
for me it's kind of like narrowing it down to where do you want to start, because you can take our system and it's like, if you want to look at how geomagnetic storms affect this, you can do that. If you want to look at
Mhm.
how solar flares affect this, you can do that. If you want to understand how signals get from one place to another, you can do that. There's just a lot of different, so it's like you kind of have to say, what are the learning objectives you want, and what are the, and for me too, part of what I when I do this sort of thing, I'm like, well, what do I enjoy? Like, if I want to get on the ham radio, I know you're supposed to do the objective first and then the methodology, but sometimes I'm like, I want to pick out the methodology
Right.
just because I like doing it, and then I figure out what I'm, so you kind of have to figure out what you want to do.
Well, yeah, and also I guess, in looking, obviously Felicia's got a station there. Obviously Austin does. In terms of looking at Palm Beach or Palm Beach County, is that, we've talked about, getting a station, but getting it, not only putting the PSWS in, but also, hopefully be able to get, find a teacher who's willing to become a ham. Maybe that's where the Teachers Institute piece may fit in. Okay. But also, get equipment on board. I know I've got a station down in Florida that I could donate, that type of thing to get people up and running, that type of thing. So, but anyway, but there's an ancillary goal to what we want to be able to achieve here. So,
Yeah. Well, when I think of curriculum, I mean, we are jumping in. We're talking about middle school and above. Is that correct? Are we saying that, we're not at elementary level, or middle school could involve fifth grade, I guess?
Felicia, you're at the middle. Look at the, is it the high school or middle school?
I'm at the College and Career Academy, which is your traditional vocational education center for
Okay,
career technical
So that's going to be higher,
education.
yeah.
that's higher, right? Yep.
I
So,
mean, I brought up a couple times. I
10th
guess
grade.
yeah, what I would like to know is, well, what do kids already know? And
right.
I guess it's really up to us to ask, well, what do we want them to know? Um, we, it's science, and it's got terminology to learn. It's got a variety of different things along those lines. Um, do students have an understanding of what electromagnetic waves are? Have they ever done anything with those? In other words, have they even played with magnets and wires and compasses, and to see how you can create currents and how those currents create magnetic fields? I mean, do we want to get that simple, or do we already think that they understand how that happens? Because to me, when I started getting into science, I picked up a book in second grade called Mickey's Magnet. And it had a magnet in the back of it. And it was like the coolest thing, because it really, they gave you hands-on experiments that you could do and experience phenomena using magnets. And it really got me interested in the whole thing. And you can magnetize things, but if you had a compass, and if you had a battery, you could run a wire by the compass, and voila, it would go and change the direction. So, I mean, that's kind of a magic introduction to it, and that's why I thought ham radio was kind of neat, because it was an extension of that, doing that. But of course, when we tie it into the justification and technology, I mean, that's
Mhm.
the fact that we can look into space and see anything and understand it is all because of electromagnetic waves. There's no other way that we get that information from out there. So it's sort of it's such a fundamental concept. I'm always curious. Kids can understand physical pushing and pulling and Newton's,
Mhm.
basic laws, but when it comes to electromagnetics, it's sort of magical. And so, how do we teach that magic, and what do we need to teach of that magic?
Yeah, and maybe
That's the
that
harder
becomes
part.
sort of our first working assignment for the next time. Is sort of what's the what, that we really want to use in terms of starting as a benchmark.
And what do they already know? You certainly don't want to bore them, but at the same time, it's always kind of I like, even though I know a lot about this, it's always fun to be able to demonstrate it and to show different phenomena. So,
Um, I
um,
can I can throw in there that I think you should start with intro because, frankly, the schools are very test driven, so they're going to get the information, but unless there's questions about it on the test, they're just going to just like this. If you're in a higher level group or an after school club, then you can delve into it.
Yep.
right.
Like
That
it's
so that
hard to get kids to compete in a science fair here because everything is so driven on this, on what
curriculum.
the schools can achieve.
Yeah.
Right. And there are only so many hours in a day. I understand that.
Right.
When you bring in something new like radio, to a teacher, they have to be ready to take on something new. Something might even have to come off their plate.
Yeah.
because we really want people to enjoy doing this. We don't want it to be a burden. We don't want it to be a task, even for the teacher.
Yeah.
If it's a task for the teacher, the kid's not going to have a good time.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that would be important.
Yeah, and that's also the balance between extracurricular and built inside of a curriculum. So we'll have to
Yeah.
work that out as we go forward with that. So
At Lhasa, I have a quick question for you guys, James, and is
thank
it
you for Christina for that comment. Yep. So yep.
James and is it Tejas? Is that how you say it?
Tejas.
They just
Tejas.
sorry.
Tejas. Okay.
Mhm.
So James and Tejas, do you have a faculty advisor that is that you guys need to put this into the curriculum, or is this after school type of thing for you guys?
So for us, it's primarily after school. At one point in our school's history, we did have an amateur radio elective, which was fun, except I don't know how, if that's going to be able to be brought back. We do have a faculty advisor who is also one of the physics teachers at LASA, which is nice, but we, it's pretty much just all during lunch and after school type of thing.
Do you think that teacher would be interested in learning about space science and do they teach I forget what it well is it electromagnetics or is it basic physics like just
Um,
mechanics?
So we have AP Physics at LASA, which is required for juniors to take, and it covers basically it's a college board class, so it
Yep,
covers both. Yeah,
I'm
it
familiar
covers
with it.
at
Yeah.
least.
So do
Yeah,
you do physics too, right?
yeah,
Okay, so you're going to have your electromagnetics right there. I mean, I
yeah.
know they in the AP courses they have to teach to the test. That's the whole point. Is you're going to pass that test. So I didn't know if he would be interested in having some kind of other electromagnetic study that you would do potentially and be able to teach some of the concepts that are also involved in the AP test. But it would give you something that's really this is a real practical use
Yeah.
of this stuff at the same time that you're learning the details of the calculus and everything else. So um, have you guys ever thought about approaching your physics teacher, and ask him if he'd want to do something like that? I mean, that would be really kind of the tie into curriculum at your school, and then it could be just after school too, of course.
I think we have James. I don't know if you have more information about this because this is primarily something that Mr. Fisher was handling, but we did have some plans to get him like a teacher's. I'm sorry, no, let me rephrase this. We did have some plans to maybe put amateur radio into the curriculum, except I'm not sure how developed those plans are. Um, I think it was more of like just a dream than anything, but now that we actually have like a kind of framework with a real organization which has grants and stuff behind it, I think that can definitely be something that we can talk to him more about. Unfortunately, he hasn't really been responding to his emails that much over the break, but school's going to be starting in
Teachers
like
are allowed
a
to do that
week.
during the
Yeah,
summer.
I found that
Yeah.
too. I got a little worried for a while.
No,
Um,
no, I totally get that. My question is, he's not a ham though, is he?
No.
He's not a ham, but he
Not
has a
yet.
pretty good yeah, not yet, but he does say he has been studying for his license and he has a pretty good he's an electrical engineer by trading or
Well,
by trade, but
well,
it's pretty good knowledge.
so when he does answer emails and when he has returned from, his 3 month vacation, which, or actually it's only like 2 months, but as a teacher, I know I worked a lot more than that. Um, he would be really good to get involved in understanding what we're trying to do. He would be a good person to have in this group if he's interested. And whenever we can figure out we're going to meet, it would be a good time too. So.
Yeah.
But to have that information to pass on to him, I think that'd be really great to look at it that. But right now, your interest is more just for the club. How many members of your club are there right now?
I think we have around 15 members of
Wow.
our club,
Great.
so
And
yeah.
they're all licensed?
Not all of us. I think
Working on it?
around yeah, working on it. I think like around 8 of us are licensed and then the rest just operate at school.
Cool.
And are they, do you take classes through a local club there in Austin? Is there a local club involved
Uh,
in you guys?
we we don't take classes. We are affiliated and hang out at events hosted by the Austin Amateur Radio Club and the Oak Hill Amateur Radio Club, which is another
Okay.
organization here in Austin.
Okay.
But primarily our studying and learning is done through like physical, like hands-on studying, I guess,
Right.
and studying
That's the way
together.
to do it, I
Right.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So there are other clubs there that if you guys run into any issues, you've got some people you could lean on to, James.
Sorry.
Is that right?
Wait, so what?
Yeah. Oh, was that a question for me or a question for Tejas?
Well, for you both, I guess, but for you,
Okay.
James, I mean, you're sort of an advisor to this club, so you can
Mhm.
help. Does now Texas A&M is in Austin, right?
Texas A&M is over in College Station. We're
Oh, that's right, in College
miles
Station. I'm
away.
sorry.
Yeah.
2 hours.
So as far as being in Austin, though, it might be really good to have some local club people to help out too. You can't be there all the
Yeah.
time, so
We've been working on it. The problem is we had an Elmer who was with the club for 20 years who just passed away this year.
I'm
So we
sorry.
don't have a replacement for him just yet.
At
So
Lhasa.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
And so
I hope that you guys can, figure those little things out. Those are, that's totally something separate from
yeah,
this, but that
we
would
do
be
have
great to
s-
have it.
we do have good support from the Austin Amateur Radio Club. Like if we really need something, they'll get it for us. Oak Hill Amateur Radio Club is more of a social club. They don't really offer much in terms of like financial support, but it's people and sometimes we can, ask for people there to help out.
Well,
As
maybe
for the
Austin would be
support,
the good one. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, as for me, through the Texas A&M University Amateur Radio Club, I'm not allowed to offer much support. There are some restrictions
Understood.
with, dealing with minors and whatnot that I
Mm.
really don't want to go through, all that
Oh,
university training and
as a
paperwork
Right.
teacher,
for.
I know you. Yeah.
I fully
Don't worry.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of hoops. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And for good reasons. So,
yeah.
um,
One of the other
yeah.
things I did want to mention is AISD hasn't been doing too hot recently. The state has kind of had it out for us for the past, way too long with the governor. So much so that we're struggling with funding and whatnot. So the teachers, as of right now, they already have a lot to do. So I'm not terribly optimistic about us being able to get it back as a class. Because the reason we had a class, until like 2023 is because we had a teacher who taught it as one of the electives that you wanted to.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
could definitely talk to some of the other teachers to see if they would let us do like a presentation, like on a down day for them. So maybe in
Actually,
like a
that
physics. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is something we've done before.
Okay.
We have a elective called engineering math. I don't know if it's going to be there next year, but we have presented about amateur radio in that class. So that is already something that has happened. So we can try to do that more often, I guess.
And as you guys learn about this project and you learn the details, and we've got lots of, Nathaniel and Christina and lots of people who've got really good resources to share with you. You can put together a very good presentation. You'll be in demand,
Right.
type of thing to give a presentation on this stuff. So it's really kind of fun.
I
But
think
that's great.
Dave,
Yeah,
if I can jump in here, just because I'm watching the clock, okay?
yeah, I know you are.
Yeah. We've got one agenda item, and that's really setting up a next meeting. I know we referred to it in passing. If you took a
Okay.
look at my note, I was suggesting that we meet every other week. Okay, and I was suggesting, I guess maybe the first or third Wednesday of the month. It seems like it's a good day around other HamSCI meetings. Obviously, I'm concerned, I guess, maybe, with Austin in terms of the fact that it's school. I guess maybe what, 3 to 4. Although if that's possible, I guess for everybody, how does the first and third Wednesday of the month look in terms of looking at Eastern time as a benchmark, 4 to 5 in the afternoon, this time period? Does that seem to work?
I won't
Yeah,
be
let,
able.
let us know which one, first or third.
Okay, well, we'll
Well,
start with we're looking at the first and third, Cindy. So it's not every
Oh,
week; it's every other week. Okay, I'm proposing that we meet. The third week is August 19th. Okay, from 4 to 5 Eastern time. Okay, and we'll look to get on obviously we don't want to overburden everyone. So I mean, that's why we're thinking
okay.
about, every other week, about an hour a week, and then if we've got assignments in between, and we use that to coordinate everybody's schedule. At least as a benchmark right now to get something on the calendar. Does that work?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that
need to
works.
also just mention something miscellaneous is that Florida, I don't know about other states, but the academic test that they stress to pass is not physical science, it is biology.
Yeah.
It's biology, but I have something in mind for a specific physics teacher, and I know the curriculum lady at Palm Beach County, so
Yeah.
I have some things to work with.
Tejas, I see your note. Okay, perhaps Dave and I will pull this offline. Okay, because obviously I know you're in school. Okay, so okay.
How late does your day go?
It's till 3:45 Central Time, or sorry,
Yep.
3:50. So basically 4 Central Time.
Yep.
And it usually
Okay.
takes me around 45
Let's pull that
minutes, an hour to
offline. We
get
can get
home.
back to everybody before the 19th. I mean, I'd like to
Yeah.
meet
So
again on the 19th. Yeah. So,
if this meeting got pushed back an hour,
hour. Mhm.
and that would be the other thing. If your day ends at 4 o'clock, could you sit down every once in a while on a Wednesday from your time in the central 4 to 5? And I would be asking if could you guys on the East Coast go from 5 to 6 instead of 4 to 5?
That should be good with
Yes,
me, I think.
yes.
Okay,
Maybe.
good.
And Nathaniel, what do you think? Could you go that late, or is that getting into dinner with the
Well,
kids?
Get to
Well,
the
you're
dinner
ex
with the
officio
kids.
anyway, my friends.
Yeah, so I will try to come in when I can, and I
That's
may
good.
have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, Christina, how about yourself there? Okay, I'm sorry.
Priorities.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it should all work for me. Carry on.
great. Okay, so why don't we look for what 5 to 6, right? Just to make sure I've got it written
Right.
down.
So I'll
5 to 6.
reschedule this meeting,
Yeah.
and everything will be the same except for the time, and we'll
Wow.
get a new invite
Yeah.
out.
And
And
just for record keeping purposes, please do keep things updated on the mailing list so we've got a record of everything we've been up to.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
and I
Nathaniel,
am
over to you. I guess we're into just clothing other business before we go.
Yeah,
So
I'm in the process of working with Scranton IT to come up with a more centralized method of communication, telecoms, and scheduling for the HamSCI activities. So I think we're likely going to move to a situation where all of the HamSCI telecons are scheduled through University of Scranton Microsoft Teams accounts and scranton.edu email addresses. And that will allow us to give team leaders the ability to have a schedule that calendar that they can keep and put publicly on a website. So I'm working on those logistics now. So
great.
we it will become less ad hoc than it is at the moment. But we're
But
working on it.
for the 19th, let's propose that we're going to meet 1 hour later than we did today on the
That's
19th,
correct.
and see how
Yeah.
that works for everybody. Is
Yeah.
that all right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the next meeting by Zoom, Nathaniel, or what? Does that work?
Yeah, this works fine for now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So Dave, why
Yeah.
don't
When
we
you're
do that?
ready, when you're ready, Nathaniel, tell us to switch. That'd be
So
good.
any
I
other comments for the good of the order here? I know we're about what 3 minutes. So
I wanted to ask Felicia. Felicia, do you have a ham club that you can work with? I was just curious.
I'm currently a member of the Sumter County Amateur Radio Club. It says Sumter County, but most of the individuals are in Marengo County. So I think that's just kind of where it
that's
originated,
good.
and it
Yeah.
kind of never changed the name or whatever. Um, so that's where I am right now. I haven't been able to make a Tuscaloosa Club meeting yet because of just scheduling. I don't even get to make the Sumter County because I'm on a library board and where I
Oh,
live, and we meet second, third. So I can't even, and I'm president
Great.
and vice president right now. So
your plate is full. Yeah.
Hey, we love it.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. So that you might have a few hams that you could say, "Hey, I could use an extra hand pulling up a wire and things like that," right?
yes, yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yes.
Good.
A lot of it
Excellent.
I probably just do myself.
Very
Any other
good.
comments or questions?
Get your students to help you.
Yeah.
Liability.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I know we're pretty much right to time, so
Thanks,
I
Ed,
just
for
want to
keeping
say
us.
thanks to everybody. This was a great introductory meeting. It's nice to see all the faces all in one place. So I know I've talked to you either by phone or by Zoom, but it's great to see it all come together. So and hopefully, we'll just turn this into something that I think is really successful, and that as pilots we can really replicate this going forward. For a lot of the other pieces that we're talking about in terms of looking at the grant and everything else. So thank you. Okay, if you've got any questions or comments, the roster's out there. Okay, so feel free to reach out. And I know you already have in the meeting. Okay, feel free to reach out to each other. Okay, as we put this all together. And Cindy, if you can backfill Randy. Okay,
I will.
okay, perfect. That'll be great.
I
So
did
feel free to
record
meet
this,
you.
and I can get that. We can put it someplace if somebody
Right,
else
and
needs
this
to
way we
watch
can
it.
all grab it. So perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So
One thing I can
go
say,
ahead, Hank.
yeah, this just got posted. Gwen Griffiths is one of our members who is in the United Kingdom, and he is a very interesting person. He is a retired emeritus oceanography professor, and he's
Hmm.
Order of the British Empire, OBE.
Mhm.
So he is extremely well qualified, but he also happens to be a ham radio operator, and he's one of our best data analysts, and he's also an excellent speaker. So he just gave a presentation to the AMSAT South America Space Symposium on the Personal Space Weather Station.
Oh,
And he I'll put it's recorded on YouTube. I will put it will eventually be on hamsci.org/PSWS. But that's probably going to be one of the best introductions that you are going to see to what the personal space weather
Yeah.
station is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Gwen is
It's
great.
really,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
He's such an excellent speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of resources here, so that's great. So,
Yeah.
anything else? So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay. So, and again, any questions or comments, and certainly input in terms of looking at curriculum. Now that we've sort of gone through, I guess, an initial iteration, I think it'd be really helpful for all of us. And Christina's comment too, in terms of maybe breaking it out, in terms of looking at two separate curriculum are great. Yes.
And wrong one, but also we are on the trying to grab the correct one. Somewhere here it is. There it is.
There it
On
is.
the cover of QST this month. And
Marvelous public relations. Yes.
yeah, and in there's I have an article that is what is the HamSci Personal Space Weather Station receiver. So it's a nice 4-page article.
Yep.
If you need a copy of this to share with administrators or things like that, we can probably get you a PDF copy. I do encourage you to become ARRL members so you can,
yeah.
yeah.
Note to file, Nathaniel. I've got a meeting with Interbitson tonight. I can ask him if he can spare a couple copies.
Great.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so I know he's sending some copies here. So,
Okay.
but yeah, just and they sent me a PDF of it too. I'm not allowed to share the PDF on social media. That was
Yeah.
the criteria. No sharing the PDF on social media. But if we need it to say like share with administrators to help get
Great. Okay.
explain what we're doing, that's a good
Okay.
article.
Perfect. So, anything else, everyone? My
Thank
thanks
you,
to all
everybody.
of you. Okay, and see you on the 19th. So,
Thanks, everybody.
73s.
Thank
Have a great
you.
everybody.
Bye,
See y'all
everyone.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
7-3.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good meeting.
Oh,
Thank you.
hey Nathaniel, really
Yeah.
quick thing. I'm
Go
about to
ahead.
shoot you an
Yeah.
email asking you about the VHF UHF PSWS.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you a heads up that I'm gonna send you that email here probably in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. And I will hopefully respond to it before next week. My
Hey,
email.
that's fine. After I get off this call, I'm prepping for a DiffyQ final I have on Thursday, so I I get it.
So yeah, I'll
Thanks,
do my
James. This
best.
is great. Yeah.
Take care, y'all.
CC Gordon on that
Bye.
email too, okay?
Will do.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. I
Bye-bye.
think I copied that last link.
I'm not going to hit the end because I'm controlling the meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Although I think I lost Cindy. Cindy, you still on?
I think she checked out. I
Okay,
think
well,
I
she's
saw her
still
go
logged
out.
in, so I'm going to end her and end you too.
Oh no, she's still there. She is still there.
Yeah, but I don't think she's there. So
Yeah. Good meeting. That was a good meeting.
yeah, thank you, Ed. I hope that
Yeah.
we didn't get into details on curriculum, but I think it's really important to understand where we're going to come in on that. And
Yeah, and also some of the issues early on, that type of thing. So,
well, I think the logistics of getting the equipment installed is really, really a big hurdle. And if you
yeah,
get that
yeah,
done, then, but we could, I don't see why we couldn't have a piece of, well, it's better to have the equipment close by, of course, because we want to get the different
yeah,
geographical locations, but at least to get students from day one, even if there's no equipment shipped there at all,
yeah,
if they wanted to turn on a computer and log into the KA9Q, that
yeah,
web interface, we should have that ready to go.
yeah, exactly.
And have maybe a machine dedicated to that so that we don't overload it or something, and people can go over there and check things out, start
Yeah.
poking around with.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, I got interested because I had a shortwave radio in front of me and it had dials and I could turn it
Me
and hear
too.
different
Exactly.
things.
Yeah.
And that's I actually, if you could get an old radio with a dial and a
Yeah.
mechanical connection and do that, that's another great way to do it.
Yeah.
Everything on computers kind of, I don't know, it works,
Yeah, it
but
works. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I just hope that I mean Cindy's obviously she's got something scheduled with Randy, is
Yeah,
to actually get it moving, that type of thing.
yeah.
So, and obviously, I
No, I
mean,
think she's got the right questions, and she was
yes,
saying,
absolutely.
now
Absolutely.
the
I
two
mean,
things that they identified that she was talking about that kind of surprised me. A justification for technology. There has that,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and then the second one, I didn't get it jotted down fast enough, but
Yeah.
I want to see those details. Somewhere in there, they've got that. Well, Florida is very different when it comes to education.
Yeah.
Um, somewhere in there, I would think there's a science standard that has to teach about
Yeah.
electromagnetic waves. That
Yeah.
the electromagnetic wave. There's some statement that says electromagnetic waves, have a spectrum from radio waves to microwaves to infrared to visible light to
Yeah.
ultraviolet to
Yeah.
X-rays and gamma rays. And that whole here's the
Yeah.
spectrum. And somewhere they're probably expected to know that or have
Yeah.
been exposed to it. But I don't know if they understand that when an electron goes up and down, that it gives off a wave. You
That's right.
know, anything that's warm, well, it's vibrating, and so it's giving off radio waves.
Right.
And so everything gives off radio waves.
Right.
So that's the catch. I don't think
Yeah.
people really know that, and they
Yeah.
don't they don't think
Yeah.
of, if I look at this with a certain part of the spectrum, then I will see, you know, like
Yeah.
heat coming off of people on an infrared camera and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
and obviously I appreciate the fact that as a recently retired teacher, I mean, obviously she knows how it works,
yeah,
and
that's
her and
good.
Randy just parenthetically are both they're the education committee for the West Palm Beach Club, so they do a lot
Great.
of outreach. So I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
that's really neat. Well, they already teach classes, so they maybe have
yeah,
an idea for
yeah, I know
curriculum.
that they
Teach
just did.
radio.
I forget what the heck they did while I was gone, at a school, at a French school in Palm Beach County. Okay, so and actually Randy is fluent in French, so he did the presentation.
Oh, cool.
Talking about amateur radio in French. It was great. So I mean, good people, that type of thing.
That's
So.
really cool.
So no,
All right.
I think we can make this work. So it'll be slow but sure, but I think we'll get it. The other piece that I need to grab Nathaniel on is, and it goes back to the grant, okay, is that Steve Goodgame, who was the teacher for the Teachers Institute,
Yeah, I know
left,
Steve.
but they're retaining him. Well, I heard came up at the board meeting. Okay, it's not for publication yet. They're retaining him for a short period of time. Wayne Green, do you know him? Okay, he was
No.
one of the assistants. He's
Oh no, I
been
know. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
off the
I
record,
heard.
he's Good Game's replacement. Okay, so now they haven't announced it yet. I just found out because I talked to one of the board members, okay, about what we're doing. So, but Steve said that he would help us. But knowing that, maybe we'll wait a little bit for the announcement and then go back because one of the things Steve put in was to help us. Okay, in terms of what we need to do, we might be able to pick up a school, being that he's teaching in Mississippi now, as a part of that. But I'll
Okay.
know a little bit more. Maybe Interbitson will talk about it tonight because I got the PR meeting tonight, the ARL PR meeting. So that may come
Yeah.
up in passing as well too. But I need to
Well,
backfill Nathaniel because he wouldn't have known it yet because I just picked it up through the board. So
so I don't know what the curriculum is that ARRL teaches.
yeah,
I
neither do
know.
I, but Felicia does. Okay, she's
Well,
our
Mark, I
researcher.
know
She
Wayne
went
Green
through it.
was heavily involved. There's a teacher here well, not here in Glenwood Springs, but back in Fort Collins. Actually, north of Fort Collins, she teaches at Wellington Junior I'm sorry, Wellington Middle High School, they call it. So
Yeah.
it's a school. It's a more rural school, but it's part of the Fort Collins School District.
Okay.
And it's a brand new school. They just built this brand new school, and everybody's getting used to moving into it, and they've got curriculum and everything. She had a student come through that she just loved and was part of her science Olympiad team, who at age 13 has extra license already.
Wow.
And so he was always bringing in ham radio and talking it up. Well, I end up having shared friends with her through other teacher connections.
Yep.
And so she found out that I worked at the university at CSU for a teacher outreach program. And so I ended up working with her. She went to the Teacher Institute and she got her technician license. And then she went the next year back and she got her general, just sort of like Felicia did,
Yep.
except the 2 years. She didn't go this summer. She had other things going on with family and stuff. But so I don't know. They had this sort of introductory course, and then you can branch off and go different directions. And so they taught them all kinds of things, built them. They gave them all kinds of hands-on stuff. They gave them a fox hunt transmitter
Yeah.
to, and an arrow antenna, and so they learned how to do fox hunts. They were uh, doing some um, APIS stuff. So they were learning about, how you can use APIS to transmit data from
Hmm.
a collection device over to, a site via ham radio frequencies. So they did a lot of hands-on stuff, but I don't know if the assumption I think was the teachers already know all the sort of basics about
Right.
electromagnetics, And so, but we're going back to students. This is going to be very different from
Yeah,
that,
it's be different. Yeah.
So, and the goal is different too. I don't think is the goal to get them licensed. Well, that would be nice,
Yeah.
but the goal is to present stuff that is relevant and current to what they're doing. I mean, as broad as that goal that Cindy mentioned, justify technology. Well,
Yeah.
that's pretty broad. You could get all
Yeah.
kinds of things to come in and
Right.
justify technology.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyhow. All
Yeah.
right, I look forward to talking in a
Okay.
couple
That'll
weeks.
be
And if we
great.
need to talk, we need to talk before then, let me know.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just in terms of putting an agenda together. So we'll share that. So, and
yeah,
then we'll see. I'll try and grab Cindy tomorrow just to make sure that she was clear. Okay. What else does she need? And then she promised that she was going to backfill Randy KO4 WTM because they're going to go together to the Palm Beach system. So
yeah, that'll
that's
be
that's
good.
the open item.
And
So
I'm still anxious to hear the details of what, you know, I didn't learn much more from Nathaniel about this grant. So I
before four. So
didn't learn much more from Nathaniel about this grant that we are
yeah.
tied into. So,
Well, I think he's just happy at this point. So anyway,
all
yeah,
right,
which he
good.
should be. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, anyway, but yeah, no, good meeting. Good meeting. So and I'm glad we got at least we got it off the ground. So
yeah.
we'll take it
And
from there.
everybody was represented that needed to be
Yep.
there so
Yeah,
far.
which is great. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
great. And we made it work for everybody, which I think is good. So
excellent.
anyway. All right.
All
So I'll
right,
catch up with you over the next week or so. So anyway, 73s.
absolutely.
Okay. Take
7-3, and
care.
I'll get that meeting changed. All right.
Good enough. Be well. Yep. Take care.